Hello everybody and welcome to Revisiting Disney. This is the series in which every episode I pick an attraction or a hotel or a restaurant or something from the Disney World parks, and I try to play Armchair Imagineer and talk about how I would completely retheme it or change it up or give it a fresh coat of paint, so to speak. Not because I want to see the attraction changed necessarily, but because I think it's a fun, creative exercise that lets you to look at attractions that we all know and love for so many years in a completely different light. And today, I am actually revisiting an interesting attraction, pretty much the weenie of Tomorrowland, if you will, and that's Astro Orbiter. Now, Astro Orbiter, if you've never been on it, is a pretty simple attraction. You basically sit in a rocket, and it basically spins around this central point here. It's very much like Dumbo or the Aladdin's Magic Carpet Ride. It's the same exact ride system. And the only real difference is that it takes place on an elevated platform here that you need to take an elevator or stairs to get up to. So it's on a slightly higher plane than those attractions. Now it's funny because I wasn't exactly sure what to do with this. It's a very simple ride mechanic. Not a lot of space going on here, so you can't put anything too complex. But I think what I just mentioned earlier is what really drove me to come up with the idea that I was going to come up with, which is that this ride mechanic exists already. It exists in 3 other instances in the park. There is the Aladdin Magic Carpet Ride, and then there's 2 instances of Dumbo now. So to have the same ride mechanic 4 times seems a little redundant. And it's understandable that it's that way now because they're all slightly different. And also, it's just an extremely popular ride mechanic. You know, that's partially why they doubled up on Dumbo when they moved it over. But with that in mind, knowing that there are 3 other versions of this ride mechanic, I don't feel so bad mixing this up and changing it a bit. Now, I know Disney's supposed to be the sort of place where everybody can enjoy everything. It's meant to be the type of park where whether you're young or you're old or you're a thrill seeker or not, there's something for you. And I think the fact that there are 3 other Dumbo ride mechanics here means that people who aren't thrill seekers have an option. So why not recreate this to take advantage of the fact that it's already slightly more thrilling by the fact that it's elevated like this and make it even more of a thrill ride. And so my idea is to keep the general theming the same. Now, I'm sure you could change it up just slightly so it's still futuristic, but I guess more on par with Tomorrowland, the movie that's coming out. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that happen in both Tomorrowlands as that film either does really well or maybe it doesn't. It probably will, let's be honest. But let's take the ride mechanic and make it even more thrilling. Right now, it just spins, and you can go up or you can go down depending on how you control it, and that's about all you really have. Now, it's weird because that's a very simple mechanic, yet if you look at other carnivals or theme parks around the world, the small spinning attraction has evolved so much to be so much more thrilling. And I actually had to do some research to find the attraction that I was thinking of because I remember riding a few of these in other places, but I didn't know what they were called. But the closest thing I could think of would be what's called a TriStar attraction. And the idea is essentially that it's these 3 arms that come out of the middle point here, and on them are wheels. And they have little hanging, I guess, vehicles, which in this case would still be rocket ships, and they hang freely. So what happens is once those wheels start spinning, the forces that pull you away from it start to move the car upwards a bit. So, and it's hard to talk about without like having something to show, but essentially what you end up doing is you end up flying sideways around in a circle, and then the arm itself will move up and down to the point where you're almost going in upside down loops. And the idea is essentially uses speed and centrifugal force to, allow you to do these loops without, falling out of the car or anything like that. And so I thought that would be one idea that you could go with. I think another fun one, and I don't know the engineering realities of this, if something like this would be possible or if a ride like this would just fall apart instantly, but why not use basically gyroscope ride vehicles? If you don't know what a gyroscope ride vehicle is, it's essentially, a lot of people have seen the ones where you stand in it and you hold on to the handles and it spins around in all of the axis, all 6 axis. And that's one form of it. But then there's a slightly larger form where you're actually sitting into a vehicle, sort of like a roller coaster where you have harnesses on, and then that sort of spins. And usually it's sitting in place when it does that, and it just spins around a bunch and it gets you all dizzy, and that's it. But what if you took that and you put it on the end of a spinning arm that itself is spinning? So you're spinning in all these different directions and you're going around at the same time. Maybe we set it up so it's a little bit higher, maybe not as tall as like Cinderella's castle, but maybe like, you know, up here, just a little bit higher, just to make it a little bit thrilling, a little bit more thrilling. And I think what's really cool about it is, and the reason I ended up thinking about it was that gyroscope, the imagery of the gyroscope, to me reminds me a lot of images of atoms, right? Where you have those electrons spinning around the center. And that's just sort of like a very iconic image of the 1950s and when we entered the nuclear age. And so I think it would be cool because you could theme the gyroscopes to kind of have that look. So it looks like a bunch of atoms spinning around. So maybe you retheme it so it's not so much about rocket ships, but it still has that, you know, Norman Rockwell 1950s nuclear era atom science vibe to it, you know? I think it'd be really cool. I think it would look cool. I think it would be extremely thrilling. Definitely not something that like little kids could go on or older people could go on. But again, because of Aladdin's Magic Carpet Ride, because of both of the Dumbos, they still have those options to ride that. So I think it'd be cool to offer something a little more thrilling. And it would also, you know, take some of the weight off of, you know, Space Mountain. We're not too far from New Tomorrowland, where the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train has a lot going for it. And I think by offering something more thrilling on top of Space Mountain for Tomorrowland, there'd be even less incentive for Disney to eventually replace something like the Carousel of Progress or, you know, Stitch's Great Escape or some of these rides that aren't so much thrill rides. And it would turn what is essentially, I think, you know, not at all an e-ticket attraction into one, while using a very simple mechanic that doesn't get too crazy about story or anything like that. You know, like its predecessor here, Astro Orbiter, it'd be a very simple ride. Anyway, let me know what you think. Maybe you love that idea. Maybe you hate that idea. Maybe you have an idea that you think would be way better for this attraction. I would love to hear it. So let me know in the comments below, or let me know on Twitter. I'm at RobPlays. If you want to see more Disney videos, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. I cover all sorts of Disney stuff, ride history, Q&As, top threes, revisiting such as these, and more. Thank you all for watching. Whatever you're doing this week, make the most of it because it makes it that much better. And I hope to see you all next time for the next episode of Revisiting Disney. Bye, everybody.